Back everybody, this is Family Time 222. We're talking about motivation and commitment. In class we'll discuss this a little more deeply, but I want to introduce some different ideas about motivation, some different concepts, and maybe you learn about these things some in psych and soc, and we talk about these in character and leadership class. But first there's the idea of intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation, that's being motivated by external things. We see this a lot when we're younger, right? Elementary school, this gets used a lot. It's kind of the idea of like the color chart. Maybe you had the color chart in your elementary classroom where it's like, hey, you did something really good and you got to clip up the color chart. That was a good thing. You get the little slips sent home. Oh, you made a mistake. You did something you weren't supposed to and you clipped down the color chart. Those are extrinsic motivators. Extrinsic motivators, when we're young, also might be like, hey, you did a good job. You got the sticker on your paper. You got a piece of candy. Those sorts of things. Extrinsic motivators are okay. As we get older, your job will use extrinsic motivators. Hey, you did a good job. You get a bonus. You get a raise. Maybe you get the corner office, the company car, those sorts of things. And those things are well and good. It's okay to use those things. But there's a danger with just using extrinsic motivators to motivate other people and to motivate ourselves, is those things only will take you so far. Eventually, as we get older, maybe that sticker on the paper or maybe the clip up the color chart doesn't mean as much to us. If you're working for a company, it might be nice to get the bonus, but that might not be our primary motivation if it's something that's taking time away from our family or those sorts of things. So you have to understand the value of the things you're trying to use as external motivators, even for yourself. Ultimately, we want people to be intrinsically motivated. We want them to do their best because it's what's best for them and it's what's best for the people around them. We want them to be motivated on their own. But that's difficult. The reason we use external motivators is because you can't just come up with a magic wand and tap somebody on the head and say, hey, you're going to be motivated. You're going to be invested in what you're doing. So we sometimes use external things to pull people along, and then hopefully we eventually get them established in a culture and a routine, and then there's some intrinsic motivation. And sometimes we use those tricks for ourselves too. Maybe we set aside, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to reward myself with that. That's okay. But eventually we want to be motivated just for our own well-being and for the well-being of the people around us. And that brings into some look at some other things we talk about motivation. I learned about a lot of this stuff when I was doing like my master's degree in sports science. We talked a lot about motivation in sports. And there's task orientation and ego orientation. So task orientation means that you're motivated to do as well as you can at the task given to you. So whatever your position is on a team, for instance, if we're talking about sports, you're trying to perform that task to the best of your ability. Ego orientation means you want to look good. You want to win. And that's not entirely bad. You can't be the best at something without wanting to be the best. A little ego orientation is okay. But if an athlete, for instance, is primarily motivated by ego, that becomes a bad thing because they want everything to revolve around how they look, right? They would rather, and this gets into another thing, the motive to achieve success or motive to avoid failure, they would rather avoid failure, right? They would rather look good. So these are athletes and teams that would rather play a weaker opponent because the likelihood of them losing is lower. And these are the type of athletes who would rather have a lot of great statistics, own personal statistics, and sacrifice that over what's maybe best for the team, over maybe playing a role that's going to serve the team better. That's a high ego orientation and a low task orientation. That's a high motive to avoid failure but not achieve success. People who want to avoid failure, they always want to train against a lesser opponent. That's the senior who always wants to line up across from the freshman because they're not going to get embarrassed, probably. On the other side, you have the high task-oriented person who it's like, I'm just going to put my head down. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to do my very best to fill my role and do my job and understand that the final results are just a consequence. Winning and losing takes care of itself. That's being high task-oriented. That's also a high motive to achieve success. That's, I want to play the best teams. I want to train against the best people because that's going to make me better. And sometimes I'm going to fail. Sometimes I'm going to screw things up. Sometimes I'm going to lose. But that's how I get better. It's by being uncomfortable, by putting myself on the right side of that bell curve once in a while. So I'm even pushing beyond my current capabilities so I can adapt. That's motive to achieve success. The most successful people are really high task orientation, and then they have just enough ego orientation to really drive and want to be successful and want to be the best. Not at the expense of other people, wanting to be around the best and then still rise to another level. Those are the most successful people. So I want you to think about in your life, how are you motivated? Are there certain areas where you are motivated to achieve success, or others where you're just trying to avoid failure? I see that in school all the time, where it's just, what do I have to do to get the A? What do I have to do to get the grade? Just let me get through the steps. All I really want is the grade, the end result. Not so much a focus on, well, how can I learn this? How can I grow in this area? And that can be tough if it's not something that you're not naturally drawn to. But the last kind of thing I'll say about motivation is important. It's an important start. But commitment is the next step. Commitment's the more important thing. Because it's easy to do things when we're motivated. We talk about in class, January is when gyms across the country and probably across the world are the fullest because you have people with New Year's resolutions and they got the new gym membership and they're going to lose weight and get in shape. And it doesn't take very long before most of those people fall off. Which is actually how gyms make a lot of money. Like how most gyms are trying to make money is getting those people to buy memberships that don't come. Then they just kind of keep paying the membership. So when something's fresh and new, when we're excited about it, it's easy to be motivated. The more important thing is to be committed. So when we don't feel like doing something, we do it anyway. That's when real growth happens. That's when you develop grit, is doing things when you don't feel like it. And that's tough. I remember hearing a story. The story was told by, it was the head baseball coach at Ole Miss, and this was several years ago. It kind of went viral on social media and stuff. Maybe you've seen it. But he's talking about this guy, Jack Weimer, and Jack Weimer was this guy. He was a heavyset guy. You'd maybe call him clinically obese. He wasn't very tall. He was carrying a lot of body weight. And for years, he had tried to lose weight. He had done like a lot of people do, the different diet, different exercise routines. Maybe he'd have some success, maybe he'd then fall back in old routines, and nothing ever really stuck. And then he had a young daughter who wasn't feeling well, and she gets diagnosed with a rare kidney disease. She needs a kidney transplant. So they test everyone in the family to see who's a match, and the father, Jack, is the match. He's the best match to give his daughter a kidney. So of course he wants to do it. But the doctor's like, well, we can't use your kidney. You're not healthy enough. You're too heavy. we're not sure if you would survive the surgery, and we don't want to give an unhealthy kidney to your daughter. So he's like, well, hang on. Like, how much time do I have to get in shape so I can give this kidney to my daughter? And they say 6 months. So he says, okay. So he gets committed. He loses 100 pounds in 6 months, gets healthy enough to donate the kidney to his daughter. She gets the kidney, she survives. And that's the big difference. Is before he had little bursts of motivation, and motivation is an okay thing to get started. But deeper than that, if you get committed, once his daughter was sick, that was a much bigger motivator for him, and something that got him actually committed to put all of his chips in the table, to get some skin in the game. So think about, we're going to talk about some motivation this week, but think about the things you're really committed to. And think about if you're actually committed to some things that you think you are, that you say you are. Are you really willing to do things when it's not comfortable, when you don't feel like doing it? All right, until next time, much love.